Did God kill a man for just trying to help? Welcome to the Curious Faith Podcast, where faith isn't the absence of questions, it's learning where to take them. And so each episode, we tackle one very honest question and seek a biblical, thoughtful answer. My name is Ryan Johnson, and I have two curious companions for today's episode. That is soon to be Dr. Jonathan Light and Dr. Michelle Shelton. And so how are y'all doing today?
I haven't even got my master's yet, man.
Well, you're on your way.
I'm on my way. Yeah, you're right. Very optimistic.
You could always get an honorary doctorate.
Hey, there you go.
Any of y'all have like some pull?
What do you think? What do you think your honorary doctorate would be in? You know, because they give it to you for something you've researched.
It'd have to be like something just abstract, like rocks.
That's
my
there you
job.
go.
Like I love rocks.
Geology.
Yeah.
Honorary
That's
doctorate.
That's a weird statement. I love rocks.
At this point, most people would say, "Why don't we restart the episode?" But not us. Not us. No. Jonathan wants more real talk on the on the podcast. But we are going to deal with a question today. So Michelle, why don't you read today's question?
Why did the guy who tried to keep the Ark of the Covenant from falling die?
And by guy, we're talking about Uzzah. And so, Jonathan, there's a scripture reference. So why don't you tell us the reference and then read the verse there?
Yes. So it's 1 Chronicles 13:10, which states, "The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and he struck him down because he had put his hand on the ark. So he died there before God."
And so the larger context of this passage is that the Ark of the Covenant had been captured by the Philistines, and that's where the whole story about Dagon being falling before the Ark of the Covenant, and then being smashed to pieces, and then they sent it back on a cart, and it stayed in somebody's, I forget the guy's name, but stayed in Nebaioth's house, maybe, I think, and kind of in a, was that right?
The house of Obed-Edom.
Obed-Edom, yeah. I don't forget who Nebaioth is.
The Gittite.
The Gittite. So stayed in his house for a while, and then they're bringing it back, to Jerusalem, and this is where David dances before the Lord, and apparently his wife didn't like him dancing whatever style of dance he was doing, and led to some little argumentation there. But the it says that the cart hit a bump or stumbled, and the ark is about to touch the ground. Uzzah goes to prevent the ark from touching the ground, and as Jonathan read, the anger of the Lord burned against Uzzah, and he died. So the Ark of the Covenant had very strict, kind of regulations, stipulations put on it. When it was first given to the people, they were supposed to carry it in a certain way. It was supposed to have a certain, only certain people could carry it, and it was supposed to travel in a certain procession as they would move. And so God spent, an enormous amount of time telling them how the ark was meant to be moved and stored, and all these kinds of things, and all of those things were not followed during this time. So there's a bunch of different views about why Uzzah died, one of the views is specifically related to the holy things of God, right? Kind of like Nadab and Abihu often offered strange fire to the Lord, and the Lord consumed them, and you're not supposed to mess around with holy things. Holy things are what they are for a reason, and you're supposed to treat them with respect. There was a practice in Israel where this is specifically in the time of Jesus, where they would put a rope around the priest's ankle, and as they would go and serve in the Holy of Holies, that if that priest died, that nobody could go in and get him, so they would be able to pull him out, if he had an unclean thought or something like that. So there's a lot of sacredness around the holy things of God. And so like Numbers chapter 4, verse 15, they must not touch the holy things lest they die, right? Exodus 25, 14, and 15 talked about the fact that the ark had poles specifically for carrying. And so the problem is that David is transporting the ark in a way that is not meant to be transported. And he's imitating the Philistines, because in 1 Samuel 6, they actually transported it on a cart as well. And so Uzzah didn't die for helping necessarily. He died for disobeying holy instruction. He was part of the people who disobeyed the holy instruction of God. Some people say it was his presumptiveness of that, he was going to catch the ark, and he might have known that the ark was a holy thing, but he considered that the dirt of the ground was unclean, and forgot that his hand was also unclean, or his hand was cleaner than the ground, and so he presumed upon what God needed, or what the ark needed, and both of those views are somewhat helpful. I tend to go with the corporate leadership view, which basically, even though the text says that the anger of the Lord burned against Uzzah, which I think is a significant textual component, that David bears the weight of responsibility, because specifically in 1 Corinthians 15:13, David later says, because you did not carry it the first time, the Lord our God broke out against us because we did not seek him according to the rule. And so Uzzah's death reflects a larger covenant negligence that is embodied in the leadership failures that we go on to see in David, and then Solomon, and then all the kings after, because that's where they are as a society. And so those are three of the major views. But what do y'all think?
So one thing that I actually hadn't thought about until just now, so I'm going off my notes, would be, what if Uzzah knew he was going to be struck down, and he did it anyways? What if it was sacrificial to remind people of the power of God and how these things were supposed to be kept holy? Because if you go further back at the passage, it says that Uzzah and Ahio were driving the cart. So Uzzah was not just some random person walking by it's about to fall and catch it. He was complicit in this action against what God had told them to do. And the reason why I said, maybe he knew is we're actually doing a study in our small group /BFG about prophecy. And one of the things we talked about was the covenants, and how covenants back then, you would take animals and you would cut them in half, and you would put half on one side and half on the other. And you and the person you went into that covenant with would walk down that aisle, and basically saying, should one of you break that covenant, the same is going to happen to you as happened to these animals. And so covenants were very important. And I guess, the ark has different names, but one of them is the Ark of the Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And then inside of the ark was 10 commandments, the rod of Aaron, and a basket of manna. So the rod of Aaron, the same staff that was thrown down at Pharaoh's feet and is turned into a serpent. So I think it embodies both the instructions and then the graciousness of God in providing the manna, and the wrath in the staff of Aaron.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm hearing you right, Uzzah is a martyr in one sense, because he is doing something that's allowing his life to testify to the power of God that Israel had forgotten. Is that kind of?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what his mindset was.
It's true. Yeah. And that's where there's one of these, it could be multiple answers, here. But a little, let me throw the flip side at you. Okay. So 1 Samuel chapter 7 specifically says, 1 Samuel 7 verse 1 says, and the men of Kiriath Jearim came and took the ark of the Lord and brought it to the house of Abinadab on the hill, and they consecrated his son Eleazar to have charge of the ark. Then later in 2 Samuel 6:3, they carried the ark of God on the new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were driving the new cart. So this was a kid who grew up with the ark, hey, that's the ark. it's like next to his bedroom, you know. He's like passing by it, and I mean, I don't know if they're like sitting drinks on it or whatever, but like maybe they're, of course, they're like that is the ark, but the familiarity of the ark actually made it to where his familiarity with the holy things made him to treat it trivially. And not that he was, because it could be a valid interpretation that he was trying to use his life to testify the power of God. It also could be the flip side, that because he had gotten casual with the holy things, that he forgot the power. Maybe his dad Abinadab was like, "Hey, that's the ark. Remember, don't touch that." You know, or that's but he's like, "Man, that thing's been in my house for years. I'm pretty sure I bumped it 3 times, you know," and I you know, I mean, like maybe that there's a principle in both, right? Is that Israel had forgotten the power of God. Maybe Uzzah's saying, "Hey, remember the power of God." Then there's the other side that said, "Hey, if you grow familiar with spiritual things and you forget and you know, you rush in and kind of forget the power of God that's there, that's not good. That familiarity is something that can be deadly." Yeah. We say the same thing with like a gun, you know. And so what's rattle on the ground in your mind, Jonathan?
So I think back to kind of preface this, I like Jace Robertson's explanation of the Bible.
Duck Dynasty.
Yep.
Yeah.
He breaks the Bible down into 3 categories. Genesis through Malachi, Jesus is coming. The Gospels, Jesus is here. And then Acts to Revelation, Jesus is coming back, right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
So I think of it as, you know, Old Testament, Jesus is coming. That is another testament of we as sinners without saving faith through through Jesus cannot come in contact or in the presence of the Lord or these holy things without Jesus. And that's kind of where our sinfulness will kill us if we do not come through Christ to go to God.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get that. So it's once again, it's a testimony. It's a testimony of our need for a mediator who can handle the holy things of God. Right. That's right. And only the blood of Christ, who is perfect and the sinless one, can be the one who handles the holy things of God and is the mediator in that way between us, because our God's a consuming fire.
That's right.
And if we don't have that mediator who is perfect, then we can't come before God. We have only the hope of death. Right. All of our righteous deeds are like filthy rags before him. And so those are all good responses. Did you have any other response, Michelle, or thoughts about it?
So I also Googled how he died.
Okay.
And because in my mind, and I went back to scripture and I didn't see specifically, in my mind, he was always struck like lightning.
Yeah, right. It just falls dead. Yeah.
But I was thinking, how many times do we refer to God as the light? You know, we had the pillar of fire. We had the covenant of Abraham where he's this bowl of fire. We had, so many times where that power is so strong. And it's almost like, and this is kind of comical to think about, but like when you're walking across carpet and you reach out to something and you shock yourself, like just the pure power that was held inside of that was like a bolt of lightning.
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm going to be honest.
Am I dating myself there?
I'm not a movie person.
But in our prior conversation, which we won't mention because I've already gotten in trouble with Jonathan about that, I realize I'm here with 2 30-somethings.
I'm still in my 20s.
Yeah. Okay. And
listen, he just outed a woman's age.
I didn't out it. I gave a general category, right? You're not in your 40s, and so anyway, so I'm like that's might be too old of it. It's like whenever Jonathan talks about Dirty Dancing.
Love it. It's
and
fantastic.
So which is about as far as from the Ark of the Covenant as you can get, I think, maybe. But all that to say, yeah, at the spoiler alert, if you ever watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, at the end, that is very much what happens when the Nazis try to open the Ark. It's like just this power goes forth and melts a guy's face off and, all those kinds of things. And so, yeah, maybe so. Maybe it's like raw spiritual energy did strike him dead, obliterate him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it really matters, but
No, right. But
just,
still, we get to think about these things. Curious faith.
Those are the fun things. Like we get past we don't get past the point of the main thing being salvation, but like these things are awesome to talk about because Scripture does not tell us, but we can assume.
That's our biblical imagination.
That's it.
You know, yeah. And all of it. I mean, Jonathan, I think your point's well taken. That the holiness of God is what is at the forefront. Whether you go with the leadership failure model or you go with the presumptiveness of the treating the holy things trivial model, the core lesson is that God's holiness is not negotiable.
That's right.
And we need a mediator between us and that holiness, because otherwise we will be consumed. And so that's, even though I think you could describe good intentions to him, we probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Reaching out. But
that's important. It's about to fall. I need to grab it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's something that follow-up question people probably ask, like, doesn't your heart matter? Because, in Matthew, it says that even someone who looks at someone lustfully has committed adultery. And so we know that our intentions and where our heart is matters. But it's like, well, how do you reconcile that with the, like you said, casuality of God?
I can. Here's your phrase: "No good deed goes unpunished." There, that's the original right there. But how many times, and this is maybe a personal question to either of you guys, how many times have y'all reached out to do something good and it turned out bad for you? That you thought you were presuming you were doing something good.
More times than I would like to remember.
Yeah, but you weren't prepared mentally, physically, spiritually to help that, and it actually made it worse for you and possibly the other person or the situation as a whole.
Yeah.
Well, and what would have happened if the ark hit the ground?
Right.
I'd have just took my chances. He's God. He's got it.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, the ground's probably no more unclean than my hand is. But yeah, that I think that's the other thing is that there was really not any emergency. I mean, maybe if he'd grown up around this thing, then and maybe he's like, my dad is going to whip me. If this thing touches the ground, because it's been at our house, for 20 years.
But I got questions now. So what if we're presuming again? Presuming. Yeah, whatever.
Presuming.
Yeah, presuming. Yeah. Hard words, man. One of them days. What if it does fall? All the stuff falls out. How you get it back in?
Tongs.
That's my thing, because I'd be like, hey, touch that.
Now I just have this image of the Levites using the poles as
right,
chopsticks.
Somebody help me with this one. I can't. Aaron's staff is yeah. That's good questions. Very good questions, and that's why we have a curious faith, right? Which is what we always encourage here on the podcast. We could just probably continue riffing and laughing, but alas, our time is done. So thank you for listening to this episode of Curious Faith. If today's episode helped you, or you just want people to laugh with you at how crazy our conversation was, then share it with a friend who may be asking the same question or just needs to laugh today. And if you got a question you'd like featured on a future episode, then email us at questions@curiousfaithpodcast.com. We would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Agape Baptist Church. You can learn more about Agape and our outreach ministries through the Community Care Village by visiting our website and seeing how you can get connected. And so until next time, stay curious and keep growing in the faith.